Welcome to Lifting the Line, a construction contracting podcast.
G'day, I'm Ali from Lifting the Line, and today we're meeting with Simone Boer. Have I said your name right?
Yes, you have. Perfect.
Wow. Simone, are you ever referred to as doctor?
I'm often referred to as doctor. I'm often referred as Doctor, the Doc, Dr Simone, Dr Boer, many other variations.
Okay, rightio. We've also got Andy from Bricky's Network. How you going, Andy?
I'm going really well today, Ali. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, not a problem. Hey, so we have invited you, Simone, because not only have you written a book and you probably have a lot to say around what's in your book, but also you just are a woman of many talents. So we're glad to have you. Hey, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself first up?
Absolutely, not a problem. So I like to call myself a chronic overachieving multi-potentialite. And the reason for that is you'll see me often in multiple different careers. I'm in what you would call a portfolio career right now. I have had over 20 years of neuroscience background and research and experience. I'm a mindset coach. I'm also a property investor. So that's a little bit, that's a Cliff Notes, as well as an author as well.
Yeah, I was going to say you really only mentioned a couple of things, but I reckon you must have a million other things to your kit and caboodle as well, I'm sure. So these things have risen to the top, so being the book and prior to the book, because it was written last year, is that right?
This year.
This year?
Yes.
Written this year and published this year?
Published this year.
Okay, wow. You could write a book on how to write a book and publish it in 1 year.
How'd you guess?
And what does it have on the front here? Amazon #1 bestseller?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So prior to writing the book, what were you doing?
I was, and I still am, a mindset coach and a strategist for businesses.
Yeah, okay. And so the book really was about, tell me what the book was about.
So I started to write the book because I was looking at who I was servicing and I went, my clients, before they become clients, need something. So I've basically packaged a 3-month coaching course in a book. So it's as if you're getting coached by me through my words while you read the book.
Well, I have read your book and I've also re-skimmed for the highlights because I did highlight throughout as well. There's a couple of parts where you do actually get a bit of a QR code, fill out a bit of a quiz and so on. So I did feel like I was actually having a coaching experience by reading your book, which was pretty good. It's pretty interesting to hear you say that's the plan.
Yeah.
So how many years have you been coaching or mentoring before this?
So in my current business for 4 years.
Yep.
However, before that, as I said, I've got a neuroscience background. I have a PhD in neuroscience. So I would say this starts to give away my age a little bit, and I do look much younger than what I am. But about 25 years of psychology, self-development and neuroscience experience. I've been a formal coach for 10 years. However, that was my side hustle, and 4 years ago I jumped into it full time.
So if you were going to share any pearls of wisdom, what would you share with us?
Oh, wow. So such a absolute broad question.
Well, so what I thought about you was just how much your neuroscience plays into you when you work with your clients and you work in that role as a mentor, and how much you understanding the brain impacts the way you mentor essentially.
Yeah, so one of the things that I like to talk to people is I like to talk a little bit about data and stats. And one of those is called, and I'll give you a little bit of a stat here, the negativity bias. So when you are thinking, and every single person has a propensity to think negatively, and the stat is 80% of our thoughts are actually negative.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I know. And you think, well, why aren't we walking around with these big clouds over our heads pretty much? And the reason for that is our brain is wired for survival and safety, and not for joy, happiness, and laughter. And we inherently have a goodwill to want to find joy, happiness, and laughter in amongst our 80% of negative thoughts. So if you think about that, of every 5 thoughts that you have in a single moment, 4 of those have a negative connotation to it.
Yeah, right.
Often that can be directed at ourselves or the lenses that we see through the world. So when you think about that from a person perspective, and you understand that we have many different filters that get built up that we see the world through from our childhood, we start to understand, hang on a sec, maybe the reason why I'm where I'm at or why I'm doing what I'm doing isn't just because I'm here. A lot of it's because of what's sitting between our 2 ears.
So the idea that our childhood and our upbringing is pretty much influencing what would you say, like 80 to 90% of what we do from day to day, even as adults.
Yes.
And yet we're living as adults. The thought that we would have our childhood impacting our everyday adult life would probably be almost unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So I look at it, and the easiest way I can put it, and I have a 7-year-old right now, but it's as if you're driving along a highway and you have a 7-year-old driving along the highway, and often she gets distracted often she sits there and she goes, dog or cow or anything like that. So if I was to put her in front of the wheel of the car and drive along, she wouldn't have a clue about overtaking, looking for other people out in and around who might be cutting you off or where you might actually be going. But that's exactly what we have driving our brains. So the reason for that is when we're born, we start to make sense of the world. Our brains start to make sense of the world. And what happens in our formative years, the first few years of our life, we build basically the maps and the architecture of our brain. Then as experience happen through our life, we might tweak the architecture or the little bits of the map or change this road or change that, off ramp to the highway type of thing. But the basic architecture sits throughout our life. So unless we look at ourselves as we go through our life, we will pretty much have the 7-year-old driving our human adult self as we are right now.
Yeah, wow. So if they're the default settings that we kind of have programmed into our brain when we're younger, how does that link back to the 80% negativity? That's exactly where I was like, how does that link back to 80% negativity? Is there like a comfort within going to negative?
It is, absolutely. So when you think as a child, you're full of joy, happiness, positivity. Often as children, I'm talking about a general child, one that hasn't necessarily experienced trauma or anything like that. The world, there's no boundaries as a child. So if you think of myself, I'm an 80s kid, and what was big in the 80s? There was Princess Diana. There was
Rah-rah skirts.
Yes, there was that.
Hula hoops.
Absolutely. Yep. But there was like Kylie Minogue was on the scene, and she was an actor. She turned into a singer. And so as a child of the 80s, I went, you know what? I can be a singer, an actor, and I can be a princess. Why not? Can be all of that. But as you start to go through life, you start to realize that, hang on a sec, none of that is potentially possible because you start to understand your own self-limitations. And I say self-limitations because there are limitations from an environmental sense, but then you start limiting yourself. And the reason why you start to limit yourself is because you have what you would perceive as negative experiences. And what we call them is like these mini micro traumas on the brain, which could be as simple as if you've got in a household of siblings, they get you're a good boy or a good girl, the sibling, and then you look at yourself, and I see the look at that too. I see, and And all of a sudden you're like, but am I a good boy or a girl? You start to question that. And that's one of the little files that you filter away. Or if your sibling gets, top marks for something and you're comparing yourself, there's a lot of comparison as you're growing up, because that's how you're building your maps and the architecture.
Yep.
You're going, oh, I didn't get that. Maybe I'm not as smart as him or her. Oh. And then obviously, parents, if they say, stop being bad, all of a sudden another file gets loaded away. Oh, maybe I'm bad. And all of these little files and experiences that happen as a childhood then comes up, and you see basically out as an adult through these filters that you have covered.
Mm.
And so whilst that 80% of thoughts being negative doesn't seem like, on a day-to-day basis, think about some of the stats such as opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you took an opportunity?
Mm.
Yep.
And there are actual opportunities that come every single day for people.
Mm.
And life-changing opportunities come once every 2 weeks. You have 26 life-changing opportunities in a year. How many people are still living the same opportunity or the same life as that they were 12 months ago, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? So that negative bias really plays in effect to keep us small, safe, and survive.
Yeah. Are you noticing generational shifts in that? So say 80s, 90s, 2000 kids, 2010 kids, just because of maybe environmental, family dynamics? Are you seeing a shift in whether people are closed down in the same way? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's interesting. When you look at the baby boomer generation, their parents came out of the war and were often quite absent. Now, what I mean by that is they were going out to work and having to bring in an income and often absent in mind. And what I mean by that is that they were dealing with the post-traumatic effects of the war. And I look at that a little bit towards what's happening now. You have almost like the golden ages of the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, whereby there wasn't the childcare that you could have until like you get now. And so our children now often are raised in childcare environments. The parents, while they're working, the children are on screen time. And so they're starting to look at what I'm looking at now is this greater disconnect between the different ages and how the children are being raised now compared to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah. Yep. I was when you say that, say the early generations, parents coming from, say, around the 40s, there was the sort of the hangover from the world wars over the 20 years beforehand or the 30 years beforehand. But there was also a real financial struggle there as well coming out of the 40s. I know a lot of them are gone now, but the older generation that grew up in that era, they talked about, oh, yeah, we didn't have any money. No. Oh, it was great to find a fruit tree somewhere where we could get an orange for free.
Yes.
I imagine that played a big part in the children's mindset when it comes to finances in that generation, that like there was a lot of lack, a lot of lack in mindset, where I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm seeing there's not a lot of massive lack of mindset in the younger generation now because it's been pretty affluent and pretty good times for the last 30 or 40 years as kids are growing up.
Yeah, generally speaking, but we're on a precipice of a bit of change, particularly over the last 10 years from a financial perspective. So there is, what I'm seeing is a widening between the haves and the have-nots. And I'm seeing a lot more of the have-nots. And you look at that, what does that mean for, in 10, 20, 30 years' time? It's anyone's guess as well.
Do you think it's a history is going to repeat itself in some way?
It's a good question. It's a really good question.
I think let's just put the crystal ball in the middle.
Yeah, I know.
Talk about what we predict.
Yeah.
It is a bit like that. Like, will history repeat? And it's interesting because in some ways, the children of the last 10 or 15 years or so are in similar ways a bit like the children of the 50s, a little bit, in terms of the haves and have-nots and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But then also that they're being nurtured through various other means as well.
Yeah. Is you said about screen time with kids? Wow. It does seem that it's a very distracted way of, it's just like, just go and do that. You'll be distracted and just stay calm. Are you finding that that's making a big difference in the thought process of kids moving forward?
Well, if you look at, I guess, the prevalence and the diagnoses of what's happening with the children of today, and the more I'm seeing talking to the parents, they're like, oh, my child's just been diagnosed with ADHD or ASD. And back in the 80s, there was no diagnoses of that. And the ASD, autism spectrum disorder, the term of it has broadened so much from back in probably the 90s and 2000s of that solitary autism into a much broader sense of it. And I'm seeing a prevalence today of not just the children being diagnosed, but grown-ups, particularly over the last 10 years, being diagnosed as well. And often people will come to me and say, oh, I just don't quite feel normal, like what other people normally are. And before I even work out whether coaching is right for them or not, they've gone and found themselves a diagnosis as well. And so that really changes their perspective of themselves and how they've lived their life to that point, how they've managed to get themselves through school, through work to that point. And it's a really ground-shifting result when a person in their later years gets diagnosed.
Is that because of the self-reflection that comes from that diagnosis or that I suppose, label that they've been able to put to it?
Yes. Yeah.
So they go, oh, but this is what I've got. Oh, well, people with that or people with this condition or this diagnosis, they're like, oh, because of that, that's why I did this all the way back there.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And so it provides some explanation for why their school years, why they completely felt inattentive and not being able to do their schoolwork, or why they weren't able to perform as well as their brother or sister, all that, because there was other reasons behind that too. Or why they've never been able to finish a task or a job within their work environment, or why they've struggled to do it, or why they've left it to the last minute and then just gone and done as much as they can to get it done, or why they've started university degrees but never finished a university degree, multiple university degrees, or why they've in ways put labels on themselves before that diagnosis as well.
Does that help them accept who they are?
Yes and no.
Yeah,
because it can be a real ground shifting experience to go, and almost a sense of grief.
Yeah.
To go, well, before this diagnosis, I was this. Now I have a diagnosis. What does that mean for me and moving forward? Or it can be grief over the lost time or regret over the lost time that they've had. So it can be, some people it can be good to actually say, oh, goodness, there's an explanation.
Yeah.
Other people, it can be like there's a lot of grief and journeying to come to terms with it as well.
Yeah, it was pretty confronting,
Yeah.
Especially if you dive into it I'd imagine a lot of people would just go, nah, too hard. Or, no, that's way too much. I'm going to shut off from that. I'm just going to ignore it and go back to Groundhog Day.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. Some people I've spoken to goes, and particularly one of my super amazing clients, very, very, very intelligent, is definitely likely to be ASD. They know that they're likely to be, but they go, we don't need a diagnosis. We're fine. We have our quirkisms and that's fine. I'm like, that's great. Fantastic.
You're comfortable with it.
Let's get to work.
Yep. Yeah, okay, you're happy with what you got? Let's just work with what you got.
Exactly, yeah.
Don't try and go and find something else and mould it into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you actually did talk about your true self in the book. Like, what do you mean when you refer to the true self? It sounds like you're getting there with what some of the stuff you're saying, but what would be our true self, would you say?
So I'd like to put a little bit more theory around the true self too. And the theory behind that is when we are born, we have two needs, a need for connection and a need for our own authenticity. And these two needs are often at odds with each other. What often wins, though, is the need for connection. And what that means is we will often people please. We'll change our behaviours in order to connect with others around us, be it our siblings, our school community, friends, our parents, our family. So we'll often shift without realising that we've lost our authenticity into that connection space. So what that actually means, or how that shows up in a adult environment and an adult workspace perspective, is imposter syndrome. Or when will they find out about me? Or the confidence. So sitting there going, oh, I need to get this done, but I don't know if I can. And often that imposter syndrome, that lack of confidence comes because of that need for connection from a childhood perspective. And we've actually completely lost who we are, that who we truly are, and that authentic voice of ourselves. So a way to actually start to learn about our true self and our authenticity is by sitting with ourselves and reflecting and actually going, I might have a few filters here or beliefs. Are they really me or are they not?
So I'm thinking about, like, you with your own thoughts, how do you validate that what you think is good, real, or right, or whatever? Like, I'm just thinking about the questioning that you can have of your own thoughts.
Yes, you can, and you can over-question as well.
I bet.
So I like to look at a really simple paper and pen, and there is neuroscience behind having a paper and pen, and just asking yourself some questions. And the first question can be as simple as, am I living a life that is true, magnificent, and happy with myself? Really simple question. And when you write that out, just allow whatever comes to you. Now, often there's a little voice that we have in our mind, and it's about paying attention to that little voice at the back of our mind. And that little voice can often be shrouded in negativity or not, but it's about just sitting with that, because often when we sit present with ourselves to go, am I truly living an amazing, super, awesome, enjoyable life that's full of joy? Generally, we know.
That sounds like if you've got authenticity or you've got connection, that kind of sounds to me like if you're with other people, it's almost impossible to be 100% authentic. So because you'd have to spend a lot of time really delving into yourself, be comfortable with it, and then go out and show that to other people and not give a stuff what anyone thought.
Yeah.
That'd be almost impossible to be authentic all the time because you're always molding to the environment you're in.
Yes. So this isn't a one-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for myself, from a self-development perspective, I've been deep in the self-development of myself for 15 years.
Mm.
So the Simone that has shown up today is a very different Simone compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago.
Yep.
So the idea of being able to just show up with some colleagues or at a party as being 100% your authentic self,
Mm-hmm.
it's a journey that I believe that you're on throughout your lifetime to be going, am I truly my authentic self? And an example being is that for me, I've had some incredible, crazy realizations, and these are once again looking at through my filters.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I've been studying psychology, neuroscience for many years,
Mm-hmm.
really working hard on myself for the last 15 years, some of the most ground-shaking realizations have come in the last year or the last 3-4 years for myself.
Mm.
And so an example of one, and you've probably worked out already, that having really pushed myself through life and that high achieving in that heavy science field. After science, I went into statistics, so that mathematics field. I was a manager as well. There are a lot of masculine qualities that I was able to bring forth. And a realization only 3 years ago came from a mentor who said, Simone, you've got a mask on. I went, a mask? What do you mean by a mask? I said, you've got a mask that is so at odds with your true self that if you don't address it soon, you'll end up with a chronic disease. And I went, what does that mean? Now, for me to unpick that took me 8 months. So it's not a quick journey to find yourself. And so 8 months of working out that I had a mask on of what I presented to the world, because I'm like, I present myself to the world. Surely I do. I'd worked out that, once again, back in our formative years, my father had left the household at the age of 6, having 2 very feminine other bodies, my mother and my sister. I naturally took on a more masculine set of behaviours without even knowing that I was creating a mask for myself.
Was that to fill a hole in the unit?
To fill the hole in the unit, yes.
Yeah, right.
And so I then naturally went down the science and mathematics pathway. I went straight into the really heavy science pathway. I went into the management pathway, which are more of those masculine behaviours.
Very factual, very data.
Very data, very logical, analytical. And I had dropped anything feminine to the point where I didn't like pink, wearing pink. Anyone who would cry in front of me, I'd be like, what are you doing? Just, toughen up type of thing. And so this 8-month, 9-month journey of going, well, who am I really? What you see now in front of you is that feminine and masculine intertwined much more. And I've learnt how to embrace my feminine self rather than try to choke it and stuff it down so much more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because while you were talking, I was thinking it's not either or, is it? You've got these other qualities and sometimes it's like the full spectrum. Maybe some do look masculine, some do look feminine, but it's not like you have to choose one or the other or that your authenticity sits. It's about maybe coming into peace with sort of all these being intertwined is what,
That's it, exactly. So it's about thinking, well, who am I truly authentic? And which experiences have shaped me in ways that I didn't realise that they had. And so it took me 8-9 months, me talking to colleagues and friends about this insight that had been presented to me,
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean? What could it mean?
Mm.
And to actually uncover and go, hang on a sec, there's more to me than this one-dimensional
Mm-hmm.
potential view.
Mm.
What is that other view
Mm.
for me as well?
Mm.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a big picture thinker a lot of the
Yes.
time. So I hear what you're saying, and that's individually happened
Mm.
in your scenario. But if I look back and go, well, we're all different, but we're all kind of the same.
Yes.
You know, if we've now gone into a society where 50 or 60% of children are born into broken homes or single parent families, and a lot of the time the kids live with the mum rather than with the dad or the two parents, how is that, does that play out sort of in a similar way, different in everyone's scenario, a little bit, but in a similar way in society? Is that something that you've seen?
Yes. So we get to there's almost what I've started to see is, I'm calling it almost like a day of reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
So we get, it might be, in our 30s, our 40s, our 50s or our 60s, some point in time whereby you've accumulated life's trophies of whatever you've deemed to be life's trophies, and then something in you doesn't feel right.
Yeah, right.
And it's that something in you that doesn't feel right that you go, oh, hang on, am I really happy or not? And so, this is what they used to call the midlife crisis, but it can occur anywhere in your 30s, 60s, 70s, 80s on your deathbed to go, hang on a sec, is this the life that I should have lived or not?
There's actually research around identity shifts at different ages, isn't there? It's like the 7-year, they talk about the marriage being like a 7-year itch, but even I've noticed for me personally, whenever I'm approaching like 30, 40 or 50, and I am approaching 50, so it's like the years leading up to it are the years when I start to get all like stressed and anxious. I did it in my 30s. I didn't have kids yet, and I was stressing and I was anxious about running out of time. And then when I got to my 40s, I was stressing about the things that I thought that I should have achieved by the age of 40. And now, as I'm approaching 50, I've got this thing going around in my head at the moment of like, I might only have 10 years working life left, or I might, have so what, gosh, I better get cracking, kind of feeling like I'm in the more less time than more time sort of bucket. And it's got this. So do you see that when you're coaching and mentoring too, the different ages that people show up to you?
Yes.
How age is relevant as well as childhood, as well as that.
All of that. And I almost call it like life transitions.
Yes.
So I often see the mid to late 20s because they're, out there and they're conquering the world, and they're like, how can I up-level my mindset to conquer the world?
Yeah.
Then I'll see the 30s, and they've had the kids, and they're like, oh my God, we've had the kids and our whole world has shifted. Oh, what do we do now? And how do we get back on track with life? Then I see the 40s whereby the kids are starting high school or finishing high school, and that's like a shift of the kids going off to university. Then the 50s of the empty nesters going, hang on a sec, what's just happened? What's just happened to all my life?
I don't think we're empty nesters in our 50s as much as what there used to be. I think we've still got teenagers or even
Some
babies.
people do,
Yeah. And then those later work years I'm seeing of people because they've gone through the building up of all of the accumulation of the life trophies and whatnot. And then they're like, now we just really want to do what we really want to do for work. And so there's different career shifts that happen throughout all of that, each of those different life transitions. Or I see people who are looking down at retirement over the next, say, 3 to 4 years, and they go, right, what do we do now to get ourselves ready for retirement? And then I go, well, how do you want to live in retirement? What does that look like? So throughout the whole life, there's these different intersections and transitions in life that I see people, and any one of those could call for that day of reckoning as well.
Yeah, You said something about midlife crisis a minute ago. I've always had a lot of people have said it's interesting to me when they go, oh, you went through a midlife crisis, and it was around when my marriage broke down and there was all of these other things. And I go, I actually didn't go through a midlife crisis. And they go, well, what happened? I said, I decided everyone else can piss off and I'm doing it for me now. And they went, oh. And so when everyone says, oh, they're going through a midlife crisis, I go, well, hang on a minute. How much have they given to someone else before they've given to themselves?
Yeah.
And that's nearly what I see when everyone says midlife crisis. I look at that person and go, they've actually been giving to someone else, whether it be the wife, family, kids, and now they've made maybe a subconscious decision or an unconscious decision to go, I'm actually going to do a couple of things for myself and stuff everyone else. You know? Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people come to me because they've realised that they've given everything. And then I go, okay, let's just start putting some boundaries in.
Yeah. So what demographic are you working with? What?
My main demographic is people in their 40s and their 50s because that day of reckoning comes so much stronger at that point.
Yeah.
And often people who have started businesses and try and traverse that business scape as well. So I beautifully blend in some of that mindset and life stuff with the business strategy too.
You'd also call it perhaps awakening, haven't you?
Yes.
You've even used the word awake. That's probably what I would use as terms of like being awake and suddenly your eyes are open.
Yes.
And you're starting to see things differently. And I came across that when I was getting counselling and I was starting to see things and wanted to look at different things and sort some stuff out. But also I would talk to my counsellor about my husband naturally and the age and gender of which men start to have their eyes open. Women, it just happens differently at a different time and season for men and women differently too. So I reckon that plays out in society as well, we're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. So occasionally with women, that perimenopause time, that mid-late 40s, early 50s. Men, it can be a little bit later, but then sometimes it can be a little bit earlier. Depending on the life transition that they're going through too.
I was talking to someone about how if you've had kids, this happened to me when I had my first child. I was 31 and I was a career person as a teacher and I just felt like my whole world crashed.
Yeah.
And, I sort of think, oh, gosh, I probably might have left it a little bit too late to have kids. If I had kids earlier, it would have probably been easier. But I really had my, boots on. I was like solidly, firmly sort of placed in a sense of identity in my career that was completely stripped away. And I think for women who have children, their identity gets a good old shake up earlier on.
Yes.
Because of children coming into the mix, depending on how the family, the husband, partner, how that all works, the roles and everything. Because I know a lot of men actually now, I've got friends who are men who are the primary carer at home. So it's sort of, I even have heard them say similar things of what it's like to be at home and not working.
Yes.
They've got an identity thing going on as well because they've had to give up and change and what have you. So, but if you don't have that happen earlier on in life and you might be getting to your, I don't know, like you say, your 40s or your 50s or you're approaching retirement, it might be the first time you're going through something like that.
Yeah, that good old chestnut, the identity, it always gets you because even as you said earlier is, in your 30s, you had the identity, almost the identity crisis. In your 40s, as you're approaching 50. So it can also be milestones. It's interesting because I've got 2 kids and when I had my first daughter, I had that real identity shift. But then when I had my son, I had a complete identity shift at the time and it really got me because I was fighting against it. And when I was being coached, I made the realisation, hang on a minute, you're not just a mum of 1, you're a mum of 2. And your career has shifted again. And I went, oh, that old chestnut, the identity. Oh, I thought I was done with that with kid number 1. tell me I'm going through the identity shift with kid number 2. No, that's not happening.
Somebody actually said to me at the time when my kids were little, a piece of you dies with every child that you have. I was just like, I can't have any more then. I can't die anymore. I can't do any more dying.
Do you find that people come to you to get help or coaching after the crisis? Is that usually when it happens?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because sometimes they'll come to me before the crisis. Sometimes they'll come to me after the crisis. So some will come to me before to just try to head it off. And I work in a really nurturing and caring way. So where they end up is very different. But then I have people who come to me before the crisis. They go, oh, no, we won't do coaching. We're fine. And then 6 months, 12 months, 2 years later, they come to me and they've been through tough times, extremely, and they've had to have that fall to then go, all right, we see how bad it is. Let's work through that.
Is that they have to go through that fall and come to the realisation that they're the common denominator?
Yes. Yes.
What are you giggling about?
Speaking from experience there.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. I've been through the common denominator thing once upon a time. Yeah, I've been there. So I'm just asking the question, is that what people get to?
Yes, that's where they get to. Absolutely.
Yeah, because look, me working with bricklayers all the time, I talk to bricklayers that are getting into their late 30s, mid 40s. They're getting around that time where they've really given back to everyone, and something happens, whether it's a client hasn't paid and puts extra financial pressure on, or something happens in the family dynamic where the kids have grown up, so they're going through a bit of a change in their relationship and they're not, and something happens and then everything falls apart. And I'm like, I kind of see where you're at. It's out of my wheelhouse, but you're the common denominator. But it's everyone else's problem when you talk to them. That person's done this, that person's done that. It's a really hard place to talk to tradesmen.
Yes.
And it's not just bricklayers, but look, I've seen it so much in the building industry.
Yes. It's interesting because I've worked with a chippy, great guy, and he was literally the common denominator and started working through this mindset stuff. He started a new business, cleaning-based business. And after a couple of months, he goes, geez, this mindset stuff, this is what I need to be working on. He's now gone on a full mindset adventure himself overseas and everything. But he had to make that realization that, it's me. It's all come down to me. I have created my own world around me, but it's a hard realization.
It sounds like it's look, you know what? This is inevitable.
Yeah.
We're all going to go through this at some point. You may as well do it sooner rather than later, because actually you're just prolonging the inevitable of like seeing these things later means you've got potentially more stuff that's happened or that you have to work through. Yep.
Pain and suffering often you
prolong.
prolong.
I would actually say pain and suffering. Living's hard, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Doing life's hard. Connecting with people and authenticity, it's like, man, it's the bumper sticker that sort of makes it sound like it's easy. Hey, let's everybody connect. Let's be authentic. Actually, it's blooming hard.
It is.
Why is
really
it so hard? I don't know. I'm just thinking about why is it so hard to look at ourselves, do you reckon?
Because it's so much easier to put the blame on everyone else and everything
else.
Is
it pain avoidance type stuff?
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. We will avoid pain.
Seeking that security, safety, all that.
Yep. And anything that we have survived, the brain will recreate the same circumstances to survive again.
I remember like when I started reading all the Brené Brown stuff and listening a lot to her podcast and stuff, talking about being aware of the narratives that we formulate around the things we do and why we do them. That helped me, I think, at different times because whenever something happens, I've got a story to back it up.
Yes.
And I've created it.
Yep.
100%. It's not like I've asked that person if that's the story that they're seeing right now. or whatever, but I've just formulated this story.
Yeah.
And I question, I do. I go, what? Like, that's a really interesting story that I've put to that.
Everything that happens in life is actually neutral.
Mm.
It's just an experience. It's a neutral thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we attach good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
we attach the story around it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So for people that are sitting there going, oh, I'm in incredibly shit circumstances,
Mm.
it's not good nor bad.
Yep.
What's the story you've attached to it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah.
It's hard to figure out too if the story's got any truth to it, because I would say some stories would have truth to them.
Mm-hmm.
You've experienced something, and you've sort of formulated the reasons why it happened, but to figure out whether that is actually true or not.
Well, everyone's perception is different as
Yeah.
well, and it's fascinating. The way that you're perceiving this talk is going to be different to the way that you're perceiving it, that
Yeah.
I'm perceiving it.
Yeah.
So we've all got different perceptions of even just this talk.
Mm.
Yep.
But then you put that into some emotionally charged
Mm.
situations
Mm.
and experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And then that emotion, which is just energy in motion,
Mm-hmm.
all it is, emotion means energy in motion, can make you have those feelings as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my line of work is working with teenagers, and I'm highly aware of the amount of pressure that they have on them.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it gets there's all these subtle messages. I mean, I see it in the classroom. But when you were talking about, the childhood or the child that comes back later in life, my main aim when I'm in the classroom, and I'm aware of this, when I say something encouraging or affirming, you did a really good job, saw how you did that, good job, you didn't quit there, you gave it your best, that might actually be maybe the one encouraging thing they've heard all week, all year, I don't know. Yeah. And I see kids who just can't look me in the eye at the start of the day. And by the end of the day, they can. There's a smile. I had one the other day, walked out with a smile on his face.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It was rewarding. It was so rewarding. I was just like, gee, that was a good day. Yeah.
And this is one of the concepts I talk about in my book as well, is those lollipop moments.
Yep.
Having the intent to be kind to everyone and having the intent to realise that one action that you may do in your normal course of day could change a person's life.
Mm.
Could. Has the potential.
And do you know what I come across is assumptions, huge assumptions about kids that adults have about kids. And if I ever get the chance, and I hope I will, go on about how I actually really believe in this next generation of kids that are coming through. And I think that it is going to be okay, because I hear other people think, oh, this stuff, this next generation, they've got bad things to say, and I'm dead against it, because I actually see so much potential and capability already in young people. But I was just thinking the challenge that we have to stop and ask the questions. There was one kid in a class who was tired, told me they were tired. And I said, oh, okay, why are you tired? Have you been gaming? Have you been, staying up too late? What have you? He said, no, both my parents work night shifts and I get up to feed the baby in the middle of the night.
God.
Wow.
Oh.
Year 7. He
Holy
was
smoke.
like 13 or something. And I said, because I'm not with this student all the time, so I said, are other teachers aware, and do you feel like you get the support you need at school? And he said yes. And then I went to the teacher on the side and said, are you aware that this student has to do this in his family? And they said, yeah, we're aware and we're working to support them. I mean, the minute you see and know that, everything shifts.
Everything.
All the
Yeah,
expectations
100%.
that you've got on that kid shift 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what you said. You stopped and you asked the question.
Yeah. I mean, I was biased in what I said, but I was glad I asked, because otherwise I would have just stayed in my own little assumption of why this kid was tired.
Mm.
And I look at the kids now, and this is one of the things that I look at. If you want to be able to get on in the world right now, you follow children because they are actually native to the environment of now.
Yeah.
We have all of our filters and all of our beliefs that
happened 30 years ago.
That happened 30 years ago.
Yeah, true.
We're not native to our environment. The children are native to the environment.
Yeah.
So you follow the kids.
Yep.
And so that example, what you're just saying there, that is an example that is possibly permeating and happening throughout many of the children's lives as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Your book, Ultimate Brain Hacks, had a bit of a glance over it. I didn't read it in detail as much as Ellie did, I'll be honest. I had a bit of a glance over it. It seemed like it's a really good starting point. It was like obviously Ellie and I, and we've all done a bit of work on ourselves, so we're probably a bit further down the line. Yeah. But it really seemed like it's a book that when you're at this starting point, this is going to be a soft entry into looking at yourself and working on yourself. Was that intentional?
That was very intentional.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting. As I was writing the book, I had a view in mind that it would be for the clients before they came to see me. And I started to go and I wrote a whole chapter all about the mechanics of the brain, and I threw it out. I went, no, people who don't want to know, they'll get lost in the mechanics of the brain. Let's start a really gentle way in self-development that helps people to go, hang on, I'm just at the start of this. To the point where I've had feedback saying, you know what, I think I want to give this to my teenager. I went, great, absolutely. Give it to your teenager to start to think about these things too.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. Well, it's been great, hasn't it?
It's been a great conversation, Simone. I've really enjoyed this one today.
No worries. Thanks for inviting me onto the show too.
You're very welcome. Where can our listeners find you? Where can they get a copy of your book? Where can they find more out about you?
Yeah, sure. No, so it's www.afreshapproach.com.au is where they can find me. You can also find me on all the social media handles. If you just look up Simone Boer or Dr Simone Boer, you'll find me. In order to order the book, I'm willing to sign as well if you do order. So it's www.afreshapproach.com.au/book, and you can order straight from that and I will personally sign it. You can also, for anyone who is overseas, and I will deliver overseas, but if you like the Kindle version or anything like that, you can also look on Amazon, Booktopia, and I am in some local stores around the Geelong region as well.
Wonderful. Great.
Good job. So good to have you today.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.